Hey guys, John here, welcome back to the channel. We're going to talk into another Forza 7 tuning guide, this time for the number 71 Ferrari BBLM beast of a car. And honestly, considering how good of a car it is in S-Class, it's really underused and overlooked. So set a time round Watkins Glen short alternate a few months ago, but I wasn't too happy with the time. Knew that it could push a little bit further, so that's what I did today, and I'm pretty happy with it. So with that said, let's take a look at the time, and following that we'll walk you through the build and how to tune it. One thing about this car compared to the number 72 BBLM, which is certainly the more popular car in Forza, is that this car you can actually cram more horsepower into it. In S-Class you can actually bring it to over 550, but that comes with the cost of reducing the handling down to 6.5. So looking at the times here, world leaderboard, we managed to get in top 4. I previously had it at about a 104.99, so it was just between Sterilizer and Youngblood here, literally after Sterilizer, who's also got a no aero McLaren F1 GT, so that would be 6.5 handling. I knew this car could do at least a 0.8, and it turns out that just after this hot lap session I know it could actually just about get past this GT40, which is nuts. I have had splits in the first and second sector where I'm 6 tenths up, so yeah, that's definitely possible, but today's not the day. I was happy enough with a low 0.8, and yeah, I think because of that time I'm now willing to actually share the tune with everyone and hope that you can find good use for it. It's also a bit of a beast around Indianapolis GP Classic, and it should work pretty well around other tracks like the Nordschleife and then just other high-speed circuits in general. But let's go look into the build for the car. How do you manage to max out on the power on this? Well, let's look right away. Let's avoid that. So we have race fuel system, race ignition, race pistons compression, and remove restrictors. So as I said, literally max power 565 horsepower. It's a lot more than what you can get in the 71 BBLM, but I feel like the 71 BBLM is the 72 BBLM is still the better car. I can't pin it down, and I've asked other people and they don't know why either, but that car does seem to do better all round on most tracks. This particular track, Watkins Glen short alternate, this is probably the only track in the game where this number 71 can actually beat the 72, but at the same time hit a really high leaderboard time, if that makes sense. But yeah, so max power. As for the brakes, race brakes, keep the transmission as stock. The gears just happen to work pretty well, and in most instances I think the top players such as Sterilizer and Lightning for the 72 BBLM, they just stick in stock transmission, because that 9 PI, that could be better spent on things like power or tyre whips instead. Stock race driveline, and then street tyre compound. Quite funny actually that the street tyre compound is a lot less than the stock, but you know, is what it is. So as I said, we've gone for the lowest grip possible, stock front tyre width, and then we've actually upgraded the rear tyre width only by 1 to 365. I just found that when trying to put a 355 and then basically making the car a bit lighter, the way you set up the car, it does have to allow a lot of oversteer, especially through the fast bends, and you know, that's all there is at Watkins. But you do need a bit of grip just to help the back of the car actually catch up with the tarmac and then plant it down, otherwise it'll just keep slipping for days. As for the rims, very simple. It's the first rim that you can find, the 5 Ziggin FNOR 1RC, and then finally we actually bumped up the front rim size to the maximum, which is 265/25R18. Didn't do it for the rear rims though, just for the front rims. As I said, just to help on like the higher speed bends, which is all we have pretty much. That does mean that the rim can make the car a bit more oversteery, so you know, it does take a lot of concentration to keep the thing in line. But let's now tuck into the tune. So tyre pressure 28.5, 28.5. The gearing is 3.76. As I said, like, you know, the stock box, it gives you the final drive to adjust anyway, so there's no need for the race transmission. Alignment 0.9, minus 0.9 on the front, minus 0.8 on the rear. Toe plus 0.1 in the rear, plus 0.2. As I said, we have set it up for oversteer just so we can try and get the car turned around, especially through the S-bends at Watkins. That's a great test in S-Class. If you can get your car that isn't like full power, but if it's a car that's more lenient towards being an all-rounder or a grip car, the car should be able to go through the S-bends planted. Like, you shouldn't have to let off the throttle at all, and using this as like kind of final adjustments really help with that. Front caster is a 7.0. There is an argument to be made that you could adjust this, so instead you could have the camber like a lot more negative, something like this, and then reduce the caster, because the caster works dynamically, and it's something I've been in conversations with Slaps Failer about, who, you know, he is a beast at tuning S-Class cars. And the front caster is like, because it works dynamically, it means that sometimes that turning can actually be a bit predictable, especially for high grip cars. So you may opt to have something like this instead, but I basically just decided to stick it to exactly what I initially set up a few months ago and shared the tune, because that way, you know, don't have to share the tune again. And as the leaderboard shows, like, the tune is still good enough and paid off well. Anti-roll bars, front 31.40, rear 34.90. You could get away with having much softer bars. They could be like under 20 for both of them. There is an argument to be made that that works better for really old cars like the BBLM, but this was a happy spot for me around this track anyway. Springs, as you can see, set up for even more oversteer here, so 453 on the front spring, 552 on the rear spring. Ride height 2.8 on the front, rear is just slammed all the way down to 4.3. I lifted this up only a tiny bit, mainly because it's just I mean, when it was like this, the car just pitched too much forward. That rake just meant there was a bit too much unpleasant oversteer, especially when decelerating, so I just bumped this up a tiny bit. Onto the damping, front rebound 13, rear rebound 13, bump stiffness 2.0 on the front, the rear 2.5. I think this is the part of the tune where maybe some gains could be made in the car, maybe another tenth or so, maybe a bit more, but especially for other tracks. I don't think this is the best setup, to be honest, but the car does feel a little bit unreliable. It's hard to really stay within a tenth, like lap to lap, but you know, experiment with this. Maybe you want to make these a lot stiffer and then the rebound a lot softer, but either way, play around with it, see what you think. Aero, this is the most interesting thing, and I think it'll be a surprise to many players who, you know, are not used to tuning. So we've actually gone with minimum rear downforce. We've reduced it all the way to 124, and then we've even took off front downforce as well, so let's put it to 107. Why have we done this? It's just a funny thing that Sterilizer gave me a nod towards, that, you know, you can get away with running a lot less downforce, especially on cars that naturally have a lot of handling. You know, it's what we would refer to as mechanical grip, where just the actual structure of the car, the suspension, the tyres and all of that stuff basically does a lot of the handling for you, and we wanted to maximise the amount of speed we could get coming out of the S-bend and then across that main back straight, so it is important to try and maximise this, and yeah, so that's why we've gone that. Obviously a little bit loose. Give this tune a go. If you find this a bit too unstable, simply increase the rear downforce. That'll be the safest bet for you. And the same goes for other tracks that you want to take this round, especially if it's something like Silverstone or Spa, where there are fast corners but they're also very tight hairpins as well, and you need a bit more grip on the rear tyres, otherwise it will you know, it'll just slip out. Affecting the, or changing the rear downforce will be your best bet. Braking force, 48% braking force balance. Pressure put up to 190%. I really rarely do this. I usually have my percent a lot lower, but it just seemed to work for this car because I didn't want to have to brake too hard, because as I said, like, all the corners are fast ones, so you don't want to make really harsh movements. So I decided to increase the pressure, but then I actually press less on the brake trigger whilst going into braking zones, if that makes sense. But yeah, it seemed to work for me. Go for whatever feels more preferable to your own driving style. And then finally the differential, so XL is 100%, and then the deceleration diff is at 8%. This is similar to raising the front ride height. It was just to help negate some of that snap oversteer that could happen while slowing down, especially when you begin braking and then you start to coast. And you need to be able to get comfortable coasting this car through the bends. Same goes for any car really around Watkins. So this helped just keep the car just stable enough whilst not sacrificing that much speed. But yeah, that's the tune itself, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it. What I'll do now is take you over and you can just watch the lap. I'll put the telemetry up for you guys as well, just so you can get an idea in terms of how the inputs are. Obviously Forza 7 is not the most accurate at the best of times, but you'll still get a good gist as to how the car was driven. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. As you can see, I'm near the 1000 subscriber mark, and some of you who will be watching, it may already pass by that time. But yeah, please do, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, because I've got lots of other tuning guides for Forza 7 cars already on the channel, and people do seem to be enjoying them a lot. If there are any cars that particularly interest you, please just comment below. Let me know in the comments exactly what you are interested in most. Just let me know what the car is, what class you want to run it in, and then maybe even what are some of the tracks that you're most interested in running it through. But as I said, we'll let you take a look at the lap. And until next time, guys, take care of yourselves, keep enjoying the game, and I'll see you in the comments.